Thank you all for joining us for an all-new episode of the Duchenne Life, presented by family, friends, and Duchenne, with your host, Dr. Ryan Russell, and myself, DJ Kimball. We have another fantastic show planned for everyone tonight. We have a few wonderful guests joining us for the first time: Tammy and Tristan Crane, Bob Etzel, Dr. Diana Castro, and Dr. John Bruno, along with a familiar face, Dr. Natalie Truba, to discuss tonight's topic, the power of connection, its importance to the well-being of those of us living with Duchenne, and how we can develop the social skills necessary in order to make it not just a possibility, but a reality. We hope that everyone joining us tonight is just as excited as we are for tonight's episode. Thank you all again for joining us. We truly appreciate it. Ryan.
All right. Thank you, DJ. And normally we introduce our guest at the beginning. I'll let you say a little bit about yourself. Since we have more than just one guest tonight, at the beginning of your segments, we ask that you just tell a little bit about yourself that maybe we haven't shared. So with that, I'll present to you Tammy and Tristan.
Hi, everybody. I'll go first. I'm Tammy, Tristan's mom. We are, everything's going and like getting all these messages. Tristan, I'm his mom. I don't even know what else to say about that. Now I'm confused because my phone keeps going off. So I'll let Tristan go first. Sorry.
My name is Tristan Crane, and I'm a 20-year-old living with Duchenne, and we live in Frankston, Texas, right next to, or pretty much on Lake Palestine.
Good. I'm Tristan's mom, Tammy. We've been part of the Duchenne community for 20 years. Tristan was diagnosed right before he was 2 years old. Just like everybody else out there in that Duchenne world, we've worked through, clinical trials, just looking for different things out there that, work for our family, keep them healthy, just making connections and trying to share the things that we've learned, which is being part of the iSocial program and trying to bring that to our Duchenne community as well. But other than that, I'll let somebody else introduce.
Well, I will bring everybody else in here real quick too, just to do your intros. Like you, Dr. Truba.
I'm Natalie Truba. I'm a pediatric psychologist at Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. I work with our neuromuscular teams and our palliative medicine teams and our complex care. And I am pretty interested in the role of dystrophin and the impact on the brain from a neurocognitive and neurophysiological standpoint. And I see a lot of boys and men and help them with mental and physical and behavioral well-being related to Duchenne and just being a human in this world that is just busy and there's a lot going on. And I just want people to be happy and live the life they want. That's my goal.
Thank you.
Can I go next? I'm Dr.
Yes.
Diana Castro. I'm a pediatric and adult neuromuscular physician. I have my own, it's a nonprofit neuromuscular where we see, again, adult and pediatric patients with 4 conditions, but Duchenne is one of the biggest one. We have close to 200 patients. Love working with Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy, and I have learned a lot from adults. And I think this is amazing what we're trying to do here, and hopefully this flourish, because to me, the social part, the psychological part, it's very important, and most people are not paying attention to. And I don't think we get better if our mind is not.
All right. Thank you. Bob?
Ready for me?
Yes.
So Bob Etzel. I'm about 4 blocks from the KU campus up here in Lawrence, Kansas. I'm one of the co-founders of iSocial. I work 7 days a week in terms of promoting social skills development for certainly for the neurodistinct and what I do. involved in some very, very large programs. We have an excellent network of people across the country, and our mission is to radically improve the lives of the neurodistinct, and we're beginning to do that. So, and it's my pleasure to be able to work with Dr. John Bruno, great leader in this field and a great friend.
All right, thank you. And I live in Kansas at KCMO.
I don't know if Bob heard that. So Ryan's also in Kansas City, Missouri, Bob.
Really? Go Chiefs.
Well, recently, I'm still, anyway, I'll get in trouble if I say that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, Dr. Bruno, we're ready for.
All right. I'm Dr. John Bruno, autism specialist and co-founder of iSocial, and I was a part of the research team that created iSocial. And then when the university asked someone to come in and commercialize it, and Bob took that on, then he reached out to me and we started the company. And Tristan has been one of our participants, and I get to work with Tristan every week. So excited to be here with you and talk about what we might be able to help you guys with and how we might partner.
All right, thank you. We look forward to talking to you later. DJ, take it away.
Thank you, Ryan, and everyone. Great to have you all here. Tammy, to start, could you please share with us a little about the journey of Duchenne that you and your family have lived up until now?
Yes, thank you so much. Like I had said earlier, Tristan is 20 years old. He was diagnosed right before he was 2. And then from diagnosis on, is, you go through the process of learning how to handle it, trying to figure out where you fit in the world, and trying to figure out what clinical trials are going to benefit you. And then you get into this adulting section and you start saying, okay, how do we make the rest of the world work? We've graduated high school, we're doing all those, all the things that you're supposed to do. But where I felt that we had lost so much was in our social life. And not a lot of it is because just our boys with Duchenne in general always seem to have a tendency to not have as much social interaction. Tristan was a military, kid. We traveled, we transferred. He never got to really make bonds and grow with people. So I started seeing a lot of the things that I didn't feel like he was really connecting with the rest of the world, whether they would diagnose him as autistic or say that, he didn't have the right social, situations. I just saw that he wasn't able to connect like everybody else was connecting. And it's a whole lot of things that go into that. But I really felt that we had lost that kind of in the growing up aspect.
Thank you, Tammy. To expand on that and focus more on our topic tonight, connection and socialization, could you please describe how big of a challenge that is for you, your family, and Tristan?
So Tristan's an only child. So he's going to sit there and I'm talking about him while he's looking at me. So he was our only child. So he didn't get that brother-sister kind of connection. And then just like I said before, that military lifestyle, we always transferred. He never got to build those bonds that you see kids build, and then they grow with it. And then, those social aspects. And then having Tristan, he has Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy. So not only was he missing out on social aspects because of the military, his own social issues that, at the time we didn't really know, what was the cause. We'd always say, okay, is it this? Is it that? He didn't get the exposures. I think it was really hard because I feel like he missed out on a lot of that growth that, learn from your friends, things like that. But he just never had that connection with others. He was always with me and dad or other adults or doctors. And so having him to have social connections was really, really difficult. And so as we kind of came into, finally out of the military, at our last place that we were ever going to live, we thought, okay, this is the opportunity. And then it's still, the connections just weren't there. And then we found iSocial, and things have kind of changed a little bit.
As a follow-up, Tammy, could you share with us some of the techniques that you and Tristan's care team try to help encourage or facilitate his social skills and how they may or may not have provided any benefits?
So I know when Tristan was when he was younger, like in more like the junior high, and we started, I think that's when I really kind of noticed things didn't connect as well as what I thought they were going to connect. He would go to school and he would come home and he would have a different perception of his day. And I couldn't fathom the way his brain was functioning on how his day went. And so we went through things of, we tried, we had a book and we would rewrite his day. He would come home and all he could bring home was all the negative, like no matter what came in, it was processed negatively for him. And so we would literally rewrite his day in this book to kind of piece out like what was really happening in the day and what wasn't. We tried doing that. We saw psychiatrists who want to medicate. And we did, at the time we were saying, okay, let's go see the talk doctor. And they're like, okay, we're going to put you on medication. But there was still no social, engagement other than, okay, maybe he's on the spectrum somewhere, but nobody went outside the box. And then we, by chance, happened to see, a post. And I think that's going to be kind of another question here in a second, but we tried a bunch of different things. We flagged it in, okay, Tristan's just not social, or it was, something that we were missing, or he was on the spectrum, but they wouldn't diagnose him on the spectrum. So we always kind of we just rolled with it. We just kind of like, as a family, try to figure it out. And okay, he's just kind of quiet, and Tristan will give you his spill. I'm sure that he says he's a self-proclaimed square. And so that's just kind of how it is. He's just like, I'm a square. That's the way it is. But that's kind of, we try little different things, but we just never knew where to go until we found iSocial.
We'll be learning more specifics about a truly wonderful program that has made a huge difference for Tristan and so many others who struggle with socializing, iSocial, in our following segments. But first, Tammy, could you please share with us how you learned about iSocial and how it has helped to make a real difference for Tristan and your family?
Okay, so just scrolling, cruising along on Facebook, I happened to see a post out there that was talking about the iSocial program and how it has helped the autistic community. And I did not know who I was reaching out to. I just made a comment saying this would be a great opportunity for our community, because all of our boys are somewhere on the spectrum and they don't have these exposures. And just a random response on this Facebook post, and that prompted a conversation with me and Bob. And I think that first conversation, it blew my socks off, because we talked for over an hour and a half and we talked about everything. And then I started going, why is this person talking to me so much? And Bob's like, I bet you wonder why the CEO is talking to you. And I was like, yeah, I kind of do. And he's just like, because it's that important to me to find out where your family is. And that changed things for me. That was a big deal, because somebody was actually looking at what I had been looking at all the time. And I didn't know I was just like, I don't know what's wrong. He just doesn't socialize, And that was a huge connection for me. And so we got involved. We got Tristan enrolled, and then I would sit out and I tell Bob this, and my whole family thinks I'm just weird, but to hear Tristan have conversations with other people, not me and his dad, not his doctor, but to sit and have conversations with people that aren't like him. They don't have Duchenne, but they're all dealing with some kind of neurodiversity. And they're back there learning about appropriate things like eye contact, how to enter conversations, how to, gauge situations, from the very basic levels, to where he's been in it over a year now, and he's working and, working at so many other, so many things have happened since he started iSocial that I don't think he would have navigated well without having some of those basic things that he learned during the program, which as a parent, we think we know how to teach those things, and we really don't. Like we see our kids for who they are. They're our children, and I'm going to fix your problem when it happens. And I'm going to reach out to the provider that I think has an idea that's going on, and they're going to help me. But when you don't really know how to work through those things, that is real social issues, social anxiety, social, things that I don't understand because I am a social person. I think that's kind of what changed so much whenever I got to talk to Bob, and then I started to see Tristan work through the program, and I think one of the biggest breakthroughs for us, and I wish his preacher and his barber could be sitting here, because them two having a conversation, and his barber's like, son, you okay? Tristan's like, yeah. And he's like, why are you staring at me? He's like, I'm making eye contact. We're talking. And we were all floored. So that was huge. So, but I think it's people who know about the social issues that can help us, who, like, we're just parenting, and we're already, as a Duchenne community, we're parenting on so many different other trajectories. We don't necessarily know, like, how to fix that. And that's where it was just so nice to find a community that wasn't, and Duchenne community is amazing. Since I started this program, then I learned about Dr. Truba, things that were being worked, in our community that I didn't even know about. But it's really nice to see someone from the outside. I love to hear Tristan interact in his group, because he's interacting with people who are not necessarily Duchenne individuals. So he's seeing a different perspective. Like, he's seeing people who are struggling out there in the world, and they don't have Duchenne's, but they are struggling in different ways. And then they see him struggling with his own issues of Duchenne, as well as struggling with the neurodiverse issues. And I think that changes their lives, because they see things for what the real world perspective is when they're going to go out in the real world. We have adult men coming here, and they're not prepared. They're not prepared to socialize out there in the real world like we would, like most of them would do. So that's just kind of mine. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Tammy. That's so wonderful. Before we finish up this segment and hand things back over to Ryan, would Tristan like to add to anything we've covered so far?
I guess really the only thing I would say is I myself have noticed the complete difference in how I am around people. I noticed I'm a lot more like inclined to, like, if someone says like hello or something, I'm more likely nowadays to respond back and stuff. I'm still somewhat trying to work on having like quicker responses to when someone asks a question and stuff sometimes, but overall I think it's definitely helped me a lot.
Thank you, Tristan. Ryan, please.
Oh, I'm muted. I'm having trouble getting Dr. Castro spotlighted. It's not an option. So
Maybe
we'll start with,
video was off.
there you go. There you go. So you need to have video on to spotlight you. We learned something. Since I'll ask both of you the same questions, I think we'll just switch off who I ask first. So I'll start with Dr. Truba first. Can you give us your take on the importance of self-belief and learning social skills?
Yeah. I think self-belief, self-confidence, comfortability with yourself, and your ability to navigate and develop social connections that are meaningful is incredibly important. Humans are socially contagious beings, and having socialization is incredibly important. And even though, and this is what's hard for a lot of men in our community too, and those on the spectrum, is that even though it's hard, that doesn't mean you don't want it, and it isn't important, and you don't need it, right? And when you interact, or your brain is different, then it's, I think we could equally put it back on us. Like, we should learn how to have different skills, right? To meet people, right? But that's not how society is. And so there's this extra burden of, I need to learn the social skills that make others feel good and comfortable, so that this feels better for me. And I think finding programs that teach social skills in a way that you can receive it and you want to do it and it's helpful is amazing. And not only because, as Tristan was saying, like, he notices a difference, but his mom notices a difference. But my guess is this last year has been a more fulfilling year, right? Because when we are out and we're engaging and we're receiving each other socially in a way that feels like we're included, it just feels better. It feels better to be around and with people.
All right, and Dr. Castro?
Yes, I mean, I obviously agree with Dr. Truva. I think that all of us, we struggle with social skills. This is not only Duchenne patients. I think most of us, neurologists, we're horrible. We have problems with social skills. But so I think that something like this, to me, why I see it very important is because in general, patients with Duchenne will come with their moms or their family members, usually mom, and mom will answer questions their whole life. And then suddenly you have an 18-year-old, a 20, 21-year-old still looking at mom for answers and never wanted to make sometimes eye contact. And the reality is that giving them those tools to be able to take ownership and control of their own answers and decisions and says, you know, in their treatment is so important to me. I talk to kids since they're very little. I look at the kid, even if the kid is 5 years of age, I'm still looking at the kid. And sometimes I have to kind of stop answering. The mom did that because I want to listen. I want to hear the little kid. And I'm going to say, Tristan, with your permission, but I have seen a tremendous change in Tristan because Tristan was one of the guys who will come, lower his head. Tammy and me will be like, and I felt bad the whole time, but Tristan didn't want to engage much. And like Dr. Truva says, we don't even have the skills how to engage with them in a better way. And then suddenly he is the one starting to create a conversation. He's the one answering my questions. I got so excited, like you guys don't understand. So when they start telling me about this program, I'm like, yes, we do need it. We need it, and we need it early. We don't have to wait until they're 18, 20. We have to start training ourselves and training these patients very early in life. And it's not like I don't care, it's not important to me to listen from moms, but I want to listen from my patient. I want to hear my patient first and more important than anything else.
That's very important. Thank you. Ed, can you, do you have anything you could add about how socializing contributes to our overall well-being?
That to me, I mean, like I said, I think that socialization comes as part of psychological health to me. And Dr. Truva, you can please tell me if I'm saying something really dumb here, but I think that socialization is one of the most important parts of human, right? So if you create that confidence, if you create, again, that ownership of your disease, it's going to make you better. It's going to make you take control of your life, and you feel you're controlling your life better. I tell my families, you know, your son, they're going to start having some issues with obsessive compulsive behaviors. But the reality is many times is they just want to control whatever they can control, because they don't have control of their disease in many aspects, and they need to control something. So all of this is part of the same issues of socialization, of better development in that area, which again, we are not helping. I don't think we do a good job. And unfortunately, our psychology services and psychiatry services in this country are really poor. And like Tammy said, the answer is medication. Well, the answer is not medication all the time. It should be the second answer, not the first one.
Yeah.
Right. I heartily agree with that. Dr. Truva?
Well said, Dr. Castro. I will speak a little bit more that there are profound effects and impacts of isolation and not having social connection and feeling lonely, not only on our mental health, like from depression, increased use for substance use, sleep disruption, but from a physical health. It impacts longevity. It's like equivalent of like smoking like 15 cigarettes a day or 9 cigarettes a day or something like that, to be incredibly lonely and isolated. Has impact on your cardiac functioning, which we're all trying to avoid in our community. We don't want to do things that make our heart more stressed and have more impact. And so directly managing your Duchenne from a neuromuscular standpoint means managing your mental health, because mental health impacts physical health, particularly loneliness and isolation, because it leads to so many other secondary issues that become cyclic.
And if I can make comment was about that the problem is if we don't work early on this, what's happening with most of my patients that they graduate from school and life ends at that point. Social life ends at that point.
Yeah,
And
when the natural proximity and the ease of it is kind of removed and we don't have the skills, then we really struggle.
it's a big struggle at that point. And unfortunately, like I'm very passionate about transition, transfer of care. I don't transfer my patients from the neurologist point of view, but most places do right at the time where they are more fragile. So we're just not doing a good job in general as a community. We have to get better.
Right. Thank you. And Dr. Truba, we've had you on the show a few times. Could you talk to us about the big, the greater challenges and comorbidities that, we know Duchenne has a higher risk of those. Could you address those for us?
Sure. I won't go into depth just for time purposes, and because if I do, I can talk for like hours about this. But I think, we have to acknowledge and we have to accept and we have to kind of see these behavioral, neurocognitive, neurodevelopmental issues through the lens of dystrophinopathy and what dystrophin does to the brain and the role of dystrophin in the brain. And I say this all the time, but I don't think these are the most unlucky boys in the world, right? I don't think they have Duchenne, right? And autism and OCD and anxiety. But I do think a lot of these are dystrophin mediated. And we look at the role of dystrophin from a glutamatergic, a GABAergic process, and some of the other rules in the amygdala and the limbic system. When you put it all together, and then you're like, oh, how do muscles work? And how does muscles and breathing go together to tell your brain, is it safe out here? You can quickly see how these guys just are in a place of very heightened, physiological functioning, sort of a very low window of distress tolerance, and a lot of things particular. And then when you're in that state, how you receive and perceive your world, sensory changes, everything's louder, you have a lot more threat, perception, even to neutral things. And it just becomes like a very overwhelming place to be, right? And then we're like, don't you want to be social? And they're like, oh my God, no, not at all, actually. That actually doesn't feel good at all. And then they don't have the skills to navigate that, so it feels bad. And like socialization, by and large, feels good. And if you want that and you're not getting that reinforcement, and then it actually scary, it feels bad, you could see why it's like a mountain at times to get these boys and men to like be willing or wanting to put themselves in vulnerability spots, like saying hi to somebody or wanting to like ask somebody to sit with them at lunch, or God forbid, ask somebody they're interested out on a date or something like that, right? But I'll tell you, the things that are like cause suffering in our adults are not muscles. It's loneliness, and I want a relationship, and I want friends, and I want to be out. I'm not seeing men in therapy because rarely, it comes up obviously, but it's not because I have weak muscles.
Yes. And Dr. Castro, do you have anything to add?
No, I just want to make a comment before I forget, because not to make it more complicated, but also think about the moms, because a lot of moms, obviously, if you're a carrier, you may have a level of dystrophinopathy that we don't understand yet. So we know the heart can get affected, the hip, the calf, but what about the brain, right? And what I have had a lot of struggle with the moms that sometimes there is not understanding, sometimes, and they don't understand what's going on. They're absolutely busy, working, stressed out. So that is what they are transmitting to those kids from the beginning. And it's not their fault. We all moms, I'm a crazy mom. I'm always running around like a chicken without a head. So imagine having to deal with all of those things on top of that. We're transmitting that as moms to our kids. So I think, like Dr. Truba said, is not only what is coming from their situation, but what the moms are putting, what we are putting as physicians, as nurses. The appointments sometimes are so stressful. My clinic, I try to keep it as quiet as I can because I hate how overwhelming can become, right? So I think that if, like I said at the beginning, if you don't treat the brain, the mind, you're not going to do anything with medications and with other things down the road. And I do follow my adult patients, and sometimes the things they worry about are related to anxiety, are related to feeling lonely, are related to depression, but they will not mention anything about their respiratory or their cardiac or anything else that can be completely off. So very, very important.
Thank you. And I'll just say, like, I, for whatever reason, have always been very comfortable speaking and had pretty high social skills. So, and I wish everybody with Duchenne did. So I'm excited for this program and things that you're talking about. So, Dr. Castro, could you talk to us about why we need to establish something like iSocial and how it can affect individuals and families with Duchenne?
I think we need to take the step. I think Tammy and Tristan took the first step. And I saw it in real life. I saw it over the last year and a half. I saw his transformation. That's why I got so interested. But if we as a community, like people that are here, if we don't create it and make it as easy as possible for the other families, this is not going to move forward. These families are busy. The moms are busy, dads are busy, nobody's going to have time to have these opportunities if we don't make it available for free. Like, it's just right there. You're going to connect and you're going to have a good time for whatever, the session lasts. So it is very important that first we take the first step. And second, because again, it's the same thing that I was saying before. It's a whole. Humans, we are a whole. We're not just a body. I'm very spiritual. And I always tell people, I don't know if you believe in God or not. I do. And I think that part of my life has to do a lot of with spirituality, with psychological health. So that's why I think that is very important. It's the only way that we're going to make a progress in this condition and many others, really. If you're not feeling well a day, sometimes you wake up and you're like cranky and you don't want to talk to anybody. Guess what? You're not going to have a good day that day. And that's what happened with all the patients, with everybody. So we do need to just give it to them, make it available. And that's definitely something that I'm very interested in being part of.
All right, thank you. Dr. Truba, do you have any comments on that?
No, I think that was well said. I think we need interventions that are meant and designed, or at least tailored or thought of in a revision format that are specific to our dudes, that take into account how their brains and their bodies work and their families, and that just intricacies that we know, that Dr. Castro knows from all of her years of experience, that Lindy knows, that Ryan knows, and DJ knows, and pulls that in to say, like, what makes sense for this community, pulling on the evidence-based literature and the science, that Dr. Bruno and John are building up and putting out to benefit a whole bunch of different communities, but then, pulling their expertise with our expertise to say what works for this community. And I think, that's the logical next step. That's how it works in medicine. And I think behavioral health is the next big boom that's going to happen. And I think our community should be at the front and will be at the front. And I think we just, as a community, need people that are willing to participate so that we could actually define an evidence base on what works and what doesn't work for our kiddos.
All right, thank you. And we'll move on to our next segment. But if either of you have something you need to add later, just let us know and we'll bring you back. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Great to finally have a chance to meet you, Bob and Dr. Bruno. I have heard and read some really great things about you both, iSocial, and looking forward to learning so much more tonight. To begin, you both may share your thoughts. Could you please talk a little about what iSocial is, the format you developed, and how it differs from other platforms and techniques?
John, if you don't mind, let me go first. And first of all, I'd like to tell you that I am so impressed and so humbled by everyone here tonight. The talent and the passion that you've got is incredible. So thank you very much, Ryan and DJ, for the opportunity to be here. John is internationally known in terms of his expertise, in terms of what he's doing. But I'll start off by giving you kind of a high level view of iSocial and what we are. And I know there's slides, but I just want to keep it informal if I can. We'll talk about autism, but really it's social skills deficits. And we rarely use the word autism in our workshops that we do. We are strength-based. We are what we call autism affirming. That's third generation. So third generation means that we work based on strengths. We establish clarity and confidence in people, as well as social skills. The old second generation basically was asking people, they were forced to bend, act neurotypical. And that's the opposite of what we do in our work. So autism affirming, establishing a lot of clarity, confidence in terms of what we do. For example, we'll have one of John's faculty members from a university or a research center, but we always have a co-host, and that co-host is neurodistinct as well. And they're an expert. They may be in an IT department somewhere or HR somewhere, but they're on the spectrum. They're neurodistinct. So establishing clarity, confidence, as well as skills from a strength-based perspective. The way it works basically is Zoom based, and we match individuals, 6 individuals, based on their age, their ability to communicate, and interests. So I'm on the board of directors of the World Autism Forum. Temple Grandin is part of that organization. And Dr. Grandin said, if you're going to be working with people on social skills, you should bring them together based on interests. And so that's one of the things that we do. There are 32 one-hour sessions twice a week for 16 weeks that is participation based. So it's the opposite of other programs, which are lecture based. We're lecturing at you. This is internal by doing things and activities and viewing videos and commenting all the time. I was in St. Louis with John and some of the faculty last week, and Kirsten said that her group of adults had rolling laughter. So a lot of fun. 97% participation rate after Unit 1. 80% of the people never leave after they graduate. They asked, after our first group graduated, 32 sessions, they said, so what do we do next week? Well, I hadn't thought about that. So John created Keeping It Fresh, and Tristan still meets once a week. The Thursday group met on Thanksgiving evening because they didn't want to miss. So they really bond very closely to one another as they work together. And we'll have people every time zone that we bring together. There's a lot of work that's been done. We are university research and evidence-based. As Dr. Truber was saying, the R01, the R21 grants alone were 5.2 million. 1,000 people were part of the studies. 17 peer-reviewed technical articles were written. So it's very strong in terms of evidence-based. And then business partners include the University of Missouri, Thompson Center for Autism Research. We have a page on Vanderbilt University's website, and we work very closely with the University of Connecticut and their Center for Neurodiversity Employment Innovation. So real big in terms of employment and helping people. It isn't just the social skills in terms of what we do. Results have been excellent, as you heard testimony today. The social responsiveness scale was created by Dr. John Constantino when he was at Washington University. He was active in the beginning of iSocial, but almost 100,000 people have had the SRS test. And for example, 44% increase in communications confidence because of the iSocial work. I guess last is all of us have children, grandchildren on the spectrum. We're very flexible. We're very caring. I talked to Tammy for 90 minutes, but the reason why is that it's the parent that has the power. They're the ones who really understand the individuals, and by listening to them, that it makes iSocial better. So it's the client and the parent that really snaps the plumb line that we work from. That's what's true. And in order to have quality services in what we do, we're very flexible in listening to others in terms of what they do. And listening to others, I'm taking up John Bruno's time, and John is a tremendous force. in this area and created most, if or much, of the content that we use. So, thank you, John.
Yeah. Well, good evening. So what all these things have in common that you've heard so far is they're talking about social skills, and Tammy said maybe it's because we were moving, and maybe it's because me as a mom, and the doctor said, well, you know, they're in clinics all the time, and maybe they're not getting the socialization. What's unique about iSocial is it starts from a root cause understanding of what's going on. And so that root cause is that the joint attention or shared gaze was interrupted. For most individuals with autism, this is a mechanism that is in a typical developing baby. When they look at mom's face, they get a hit of dopamine in the reward center of the brain, right in that survival mechanism center of the brain, that fight or flight brain, that very 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 deep survival. So they look at mom's face and they get a reward. For all of the other people that are somewhere on the spectrum, that mechanism is what's messed up. That mechanism is the struggle. And so what's happening is nobody's fault. This is a brain that's wired differently. It is not wired to look at a face and study it and get rewarded for it. So it's more interested in objects and things. And so it finds more pleasure there. So if you're not paying attention to mom's face from birth, mom is doing things like commenting on the baby. Oh, look, your stomach, did it growl? And mom lowers her eyes and she lowers her voice. And the baby starts to learn that mom changed her eyes and her eyebrows, and my stomach was feeling funny. And now the baby understands that that face goes with this emotion, and this is how we learn to read emotion on others' faces. And so whether it's caused by dystrophin, whether it's caused by other mechanisms, there's literally hundreds of ways to get to autism, but at the root of it is this joint attention or shared gaze. And so if you're having trouble reading someone's face because that wasn't being rewarded, then you're having trouble taking another person's perspective. If you're having trouble taking another person's perspective, then your only view of the world is the one you have. And so you've got this egocentric view. Well, the problem is that as you encounter others socially, you start having struggle to understand how your behavior is impacting them. And so what starts to happen is the individuals start to have difficulty understanding and predicting environments. As I struggle to predict, it means I'm getting startled every time I come into a social interaction. And so there's two ways to control being startled by not being able to predict. That's either you demand everything stay the same, and that's the rigidity that Dr. Castro mentioned, right? And Dr. Druba, that OCD isn't necessarily because of a brain chemistry, it's partially to control. Because if everybody follows the rules and everybody does it the same way, then I am not going to be surprised by the environment. I won't have trouble predicting, and then my anxiety goes down. One of the things that we find in iSocial is that as individuals learn to read a face in a particular way, so we give them a structured way. Some people are better at it, some have no idea. And so as we practice this basic skill, now they get skilled in looking at a face for information. Well, now they have a reason to look at a face. And then as they look at that face, they understand what's going on because we work through that. And so that's what's unique about iSocial is that Dr. Jean Steester created this conceptual framework where she started with working on that facial recognition. Then, only then does she move into the conversation of how do you share ideas and why would you share an idea so you can learn from someone else? Well, that's perspective taking. And then from there, she moves into turn taking. And then we get into the emotional regulation piece because it turns out that that overwhelming that you just heard with all the sensory overloads and all those things, some of that goes down when you now can predict an environment. When you can now read a social situation, you have less anxiety. When you have less anxiety, your emotional regulation is easier. And so we start working on identifying our emotions and levels and then matching it with faces. And then only then do we do problem solving. So problem solving, it turns out, what you'll hear over and over again when people go through a problem solving courses and classes is, well, I can do it. I know all the steps, but I can't do it when I'm in the stressful situation. Well, yeah, that's because you're not calm. And so in iSocial, we don't even start on problem solving until you learn how to calm yourself. And then only then do you start, we teach you a technique. So what you see is a complete system here of going at it from starting with that joint attention and reading that face. And now you understand people have thoughts and ideas. And now you want to understand how to keep that conversation going. And so we do that through, so just the framework. So iSocial started with this research-based clinical model, and then we brought it into the virtual format with Zoom. This was done with adolescents. So we have an adolescent version we call iSocial. And then, as Bob said, we piloted it first with a beta group of adults, and those adults got better results than the kids. And so as a result of that, we were asked, what's for the adults? And so we created an adult version, professional communication and leadership skills. And then, as Bob said, these adults were asking to keep staying together. The piece we did not predict was the bonding that takes place. These individuals bond for the first time with others who understand each other. And now they've learned how to talk about emotion, and now they're doing it and they're feeling connected. And so keeping it fresh is our maintenance vehicle where I meet once a week with the group, and we start by going around, how was your week? 2 minutes. And then we have a topic. And so we just keep a deep conversation going. So 50-minute, again, peer learning groups, 16 weeks is what we do. And again, these are all the skills that we work on. So when we talk about social skills, what's missing usually is these very specific behaviors, these very specific skill sets. And so what iSocial does is it uses a scaffolded approach where it teaches those basics of matching and reading facial expressions, and then learning how to share ideas, and then using those sharing idea skills to take turns and be in a conversation, and then how to read others' emotions after you learn to read your own, and then understanding perspectives, and then finally solving problems now that you can take perspective. And so same thing with professional communication, just that it's geared towards professionals. So here we're working with individuals from places like IBM, Worldwide Technologies. These are guys out in the workforce that are struggling, and they're not understanding why they're not getting promoted or why they're having trouble being recognized for their leadership abilities. And so we give them those skills. So that's what we do at iSocial in a very quick 3-4 minute presentation. But the piece that was amazing to me as a professional is what I thought I knew about individuals on the spectrum has totally blown out of the water, because now I understand that these skills can be taught. And when they're taught, then I see all the other things that tend to be associated with the spectrum start to go away. Not looking at faces. Well, when you know what you're looking for, you look. Not matching, not having a low affect. Well, when you start studying faces and you start to make those faces yourself, and all of a sudden your affect changes. Didn't know that that was possible, but it is, right? So the good news is that these are skills. Skills get better with practice, and that's what we do. Is we start at some very root cause, and we go forward from there. So that's really the research and the science behind it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Bob and Dr. Bruno. Many of us with Duchenne also often struggle immensely with learning necessary social skills, far more than many realize. I have and still do, at times, in certain situations. For my question, if I may, Bob and Dr. Bruno, I'll propose it to you both.
So what
Could you please expand on that a little? And the
Yes.
iSocial program that you developed specifically to help our Duchenne community to address many of these same challenges?
Yeah, so Tristan was really our first individual coming to us with Duchenne's. And what I didn't know about Duchenne's and the role of dystrophin until I saw those articles was that, out in the general population, about 2.2% of the population is on the autism spectrum. It's about 22% in the Duchenne's community. That's 10 times the number. So number one, the research is already coming out that we're seeing these overlaps between the Duchenne community and the autism community. But the second one is when individuals, well, Tristan can talk about it to himself, but Tristan will tell you that what started with was someone would speak to him, and the first thing that would happen was anxiety would flood in. And now he had skills. He had ideas of what he could do and what he could say. He understood how to read things. And so as he was reading those, he had more comfort. And so therefore, um, he that anxiety went down. Well, that's true with any skill, right? Whether we're learning to play a sport or play an instrument or decode things. As I get better at a skill, I get more confident. And this is where the confidence comes in that Dr. Truba and Dr. Castro were talking about. So where does confidence come from? Confidence comes from being successful. What we do at iSocial is we give you the building blocks so that you can read a room. You can now know if you're talking too much, not talking enough. You can now know if you're bothering somebody or not bothering somebody. And so what the individuals who have gone through our program tell us is they're now more confident at work. Well, when you're confident at work, then what does that mean before? What were you before? It means you were anxious every day at work. And the research tells us this. We see that there's higher rates of depression and suicide among the neurodiverse. And part of what they say is they're exhausted trying to figure out all the social skills as they try and fake it. Well, iSocial doesn't ask you to pretend to be neurotypical. iSocial says, I'm going to teach you how to be bilingual. I'm going to teach you how to read that room, and then you can decide how you want to behave. But it's not going to say this is the way that normal people behaves, because there's no such thing as normal. Instead, what it says is, I'm going to give you the skills to read the room, and now you're bilingual. Just like if you were going to another country and you didn't speak the language well. We're going to help you speak that language better, and then we're going to give you those skills and practice it with you. And so that's really what we do is we focus on helping individuals to be bilingual, and what comes out of that is they become more of who they are, and they're more confident in who they are.
As a follow-up, could you also please share with us a little about the details of the iSocial Duchenne program?
If you want to know more about it, or if you want to sign up, then just send me an email. And that's the best way to do it. I'll put my email address in the chat. So we work with everyone on an individual basis as we learn more about you, and I can explain the program as well. Part of it is we'll say it's just us, meaning there's only 5 other people in your group. So when do we meet? Well, it's not like a university where you start on September the 16th or something. When we have 5 together or 6 together in a group, that's when we start. Well, what's the best night? Well, it'll be a Monday and a Wednesday or a Tuesday and Thursday, and we work the time out with you as well. But to answer your question, and I'll put it in the chat, send me an email, and then I'll be glad to get everything started.
Can I say one thing too on that? I know, and I'm going to talk to Dr. Castro, and because I'd like to see if we could look at some foundations to because I know there's the worry about cost and things like that. That's the one thing that is so hard. And that's you guys know I love the program. I've been in it head over heels forever. I would love to look at some of these other places so we can find foundations that might help cover the cost for our Duchenne families, because we're already, we're dumping money everywhere. And I know me and you talked about, things off on that before, Bob, and I want to do whatever research I can do to have this as an option out there for our community. And if it's getting grants from companies, I'm going to reach out to Dr. Castro and pick her brain at what she knows, and then maybe start doing something like that, because I think I've raved about this program for a really long time. I don't think Tristan would have done some of the things, and I love to sit there and see his face, but I don't think he would have done some of the things that he has been able to do over the last couple of years without being part of this program. When we started the program, they were getting ready to do a production. I don't think he would have been as open and as out there as he was on that production, because just me telling him, do this, do that, do that. I don't know how to gauge a room. It's obvious. Ask anyone here that might know me. I don't gauge a room right at all. So to have my son this is how you have to do it, I can't teach him that. But being part of that program and interacting with the people in his team and Dr. Bruno and everything else, he grew so much, and his perspective on the way he sees people, the way he sees that people see him, totally changed. So he did that production. That production brought him somewhere else where I got to see him sit on the stage in front of 200 really smart people and, you know, talk about his life, throw his mom under the bus, you know, whatever it takes. He wouldn't have done those things before without learning how to evaluate those skills, which I never knew how to teach. I just knew how to mom. I tell you what to do, smile, speak, do this, but I don't know how to get to those other deep rooted causes that led to him not wanting to reach out. But I'll tell you the one thing that out of this whole program, and I will say that I do believe Tristan being that one Duchenne boy in the group, and I've loved it because there's nobody in there like him. There's girls in that group. I loved it. He's talking to girls as well as men. He's getting a perspective that is not mine or his dad's. He's getting a perspective from someone who's, I know one of the guys does all the gaming stuff, you know, and then you got Beth, and he hears about their lives and how they're navigating their lives, dealing with their own neurodiversities and their own issues that they have going on. And then he can look at himself and say, okay, I can do this. And he will come out of that session more concerned about how they're navigating the world than he is about how he's navigating the world. And that is where I know that connection is happening. I know it happened because he's getting ready for surgery and Beth's offering to donate blood if he needs it, you know? So those are those things that he didn't make those connections with just those normal, he doesn't get those normal interactions. He rearranges his entire, you know, evening, night, week, whatever, for his get-togethers with this group. And that's why we've stuck with it. And that's why I think it means so much to me, because I couldn't teach those skills because I know what I know. I know how to mom. I know how to fix his boo-boo, his initial, his immediate, get him to the doctor, say this is a problem, but I don't know how to get inside that fix that part that I just did, that I thought was missing. And that has changed so much, you know, since he started the program, to see how he, you know, and I don't sit at the door as much anymore. I do still have a tendency to sit out there, and that is wrong. But I never got to hear him have conversations like that. So I love it. But that's one thing that I think I've really noticed so much throughout this whole program is he grew up, he started adulting. Like, he's going to start driving. He would have never, that driving has nothing to do with it, but that built his confidence, you know? So then he was like, yeah, I think I could do this. I'm going to go sit on the stage and talk to 200 people. Yeah, I think I could do this. He may sit here and be quiet and not say anything, because that is Tristan's way a lot of the times. So I'll stop talking and let him say good things.
And just real quick, Dr. Truba had something to add.
Oh no, I have 5,000 questions, as those of you who know me, but I would probably rather hear from Tristan, as you all would. So if there's time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Bob and Dr. Bruno. Really exciting information. I believe social has a huge opportunity to make a real difference in our community. Ryan, please.
Thank you, DJ. One question for the two of you real quick. So how would you convince somebody with Duchenne with social anxiety to like how can we talk our child into joining iSocial? You have any thoughts?
So how would I help them address the social anxiety piece, or talk to them about how they're dealing with social anxiety?
Well, yeah, how would we get them to participate in the first place?
Gotcha. That's always the struggle, right? Because, you know, as Dr. Truba was saying, you know, it's not that they don't want to be social, they just don't know how. Well, over time, they convince themselves that they're just not social. What I've said to people is that's equivalent to taking, you know, someone who doesn't know how to read to the library, and they say, well, they just prefer picture books. They don't like word books. Well, if you didn't teach them how to decode letters and teach them how to make letter sounds and then read words, guess what? They're going to pick picture books. And so what we often say is, you know what? Sometimes people don't know what they don't know. And so we say, you're the parent and you've got things that you've said, this is a non-negotiable, and you just make it a non-negotiable sometimes. We have suggested using incentives. So we had one individual, and it was, if he participated and didn't disrupt the group and he hung in there for the first unit, then it was sushi on Friday nights, and so his favorite meal. So when we work with adults, it's a different story. With the adults, we ask them what is it that they want to attain, and then we talk about how does this fit into what you want. And so if you want to be a leader at work, if you want to get a promotion, if you want to keep a job, if you want to interview well, but for those of you who are parents, then what we say is, you may need to create some incentives because it's worth it, and they just don't know yet what they don't know. And so it's a hard one. I don't know, Bob, you do that conversation all day long, so you may jump in there.
Yeah. So what will happen is there's a lot of anxiety and they haven't been to the class. They don't know what it is. And they went to Zoom when it was over COVID and they didn't like it. And so you have all of that going on. And so you have to have some trust there in the very beginning. And so you've got 6 people there, and you may have 2 in front of the screen and a couple of them in the back of the room, and another one turns their camera on. Okay. But what happens is, in no not very long, they start realizing that they've got a lot in common with the others. And so someone's got their dog there, or we had Hazel and Basil, the bunnies, and they'd be in front of the camera instead of the girl. And then they started realizing that they're just like me, and they're from all over the country. So if they can go to those first sessions, then they'll bond. And then the problem actually becomes the opposite. If the program starts at 6, at 4:30, they're going to be saying, well, no, I can't go anywhere because I don't want to be late. And the other one that happens that John realized was that if it starts at 6, they started logging in at 5:15 so they could be together. And with the adult programs, they're supposed to be 50 minutes, but they were going way beyond over an hour. And now Alex has his own group on one of the nights where the guys just get together on their own using our Zoom. But that's basically what we're doing. In the very beginning, it's a little bit of a leap of faith. And but once they get on, then they'll stick. Did I answer your question, Ryan?
You did, thank you. And going by the Facebook comments, you answered quite a few questions for other people with the same concerns. So thank you. And with that, I'm going to bring Tristan back so we can talk to I don't know, is he our iSocial guru? I'm not sure. Hello, Tristan. We're glad to have you back here on the screen. And might I add, you have an excellent speaking voice. I was very impressed. So, could you share with us your thoughts and experiences with iSocial?
It's definitely been a thing that makes me feel more confident when talking to people, and it also, I think, helped me figure out more things about like how I am personality wise and stuff. And I think it's also just helped me kind of just like be I would say probably more trustful of myself and stuff, because in the past the reason I was so quiet all the time more in the past was just because I'm one of those people where I was always scared of what everyone else was thinking, or scared that I might offend someone, so I just kind of would just keep quiet a lot of the time. But I think doing iSocial kind of helped me just realize that a lot of people, as long as you're not being like rude or mean to them, aren't gonna really care what you say.
Thank you. And when you before you started iSocial, were you nervous, or was it hard to decide to start?
Yeah, I was definitely nervous before I first started. And even after the first few times I went on, I was still like, I don't really know if this is gonna work out well. But the more times I did it, I got more and more comfortable talking to other people.
And what was it that helped you decide to go ahead and start?
I think it was a mix of me wanting to be able to be more sociable and also not throw my mom under the bus, but part of it was her being like, "You're gonna do this."
Thank you. You're a great son. And how do you think it can help others?
I think it can help others by just helping them be more confident in their day to day life and help them pick up on social cues they may have missed out on growing up. And it just helps kids like me make up for, I would say, like lost time being around other people and stuff due to just medical appointments and military and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess moving around with the military does add a different dynamic to you than some people. That's
Yeah, because with me, I think the reason why I, for the longest time, was always just so quiet is just because we were never in one state long enough for me to make like friends and have them around for a long time. So it was always just like being at school for like 1 to 2 years and then having to move somewhere else.
all right. So this is very beneficial. Do you wish you had it sooner?
Yeah, I definitely wish we knew about this sooner and stuff, but even though I didn't start doing it until I was like, I think it was like right before I turned 18. So I think it would have been helpful if we had it earlier, but I'm still happy I did it whenever I did.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you're here with us. Could you share some helpful tips or thoughts?
I think a big tip would just be don't be overly worried about other people judging you for what you might say and stuff, because when it comes to iSocial, everyone that's doing it has issues with talking and stuff. So you're not alone in that, because while it may be different situations for everyone that does iSocial, overall it's there to help people that missed out on learning social cues and stuff learn those.
So would you definitely say it's beneficial to know that everybody's similar to you? There's not like some guy like me that talks too much.
Well, when it comes to iSocial, some people are more talkative than others, but it all just comes down to their lived experiences and how long they were able to be around other people and stuff. So
All right. Tristan, you've done an excellent job. Just your presentation and your mannerisms here are speaking volumes for iSocial. So thank you for being here. And to anybody watching, if you have some questions or would like to reach out to somebody here, we can help you connect with them. Bob's email is in the chat, so you can find out where to find out about iSocial or contact Tim. Thank you, Tristan. So DJ and I would like to add some of our thoughts about iSocial. And but we didn't have things like this when we were young. We're old men now. So DJ, would you like to start by sharing your thoughts?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ryan. The way iSocial would have benefited me the most growing up and through adolescence would have just been developing a confidence and trust in myself to know I was able to do many more things. I struggled with a fear of how others viewed me, a fear of being seen as not normal, the fear of disappointing my family and myself too. With iSocial, I believe it would have helped me to just believe in me, to trust that life will unfold in a way that benefits me more if I take a role in it and nobody can do it for me.
Thank you, DJ. Is that? And I will just add that when I was in my younger grades in school, we didn't worry about grades. We worried about my social skills. I always get back. I don't know if they still do it. I got used for unsatisfactory in like every social thing there was. And so right, I finally got S's. Then about that time, I went into a wheelchair, start of fourth grade. They had an absolutely horrible, angry year. And I could definitely say if I'd had iSocial through those difficult times, I think it would have helped me quite a bit. And I'm very glad that we have people like Bob and John who are, and so many others that are working on things like this. And I'm just really glad, and definitely, would have been nice if we'd had it sooner, but I'm glad it's here now. And we have a lot of guests tonight. So I'd like to be able to give everybody a chance to give some final thought or wrap up. If anybody has anything really pressing to say, I'll give you like 1 minute. Anybody on the show want to add something?
I'm going to say something not impressive, but just remember we're all weird. We're all in the same group. We all struggle with anxiety. We're all struggle with how do we present in front of others. I get sometimes afraid of my own patients. I'm like, oh my God, should I say that or should I not say that? Should I make a joke or not? Just think about that. We're all in the same group. So just throw yourself out there, push yourself a little bit, and believe me, you're going to have a change, because I am a witness of this. And Tammy, thank you for doing this. Tristan, thank you for doing this. You guys are awesome. I'm very, very proud of you, Tristan.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for having me here, and for Bob and Dr. Bruno. Thank you for caring about our community and just taking the time to get to know us and to invest in trying to help. I think people that come don't leave. So I'm excited about that, because you're going to fall in love like we all do. But for the guys out there, my dudes, these things like iSocial, this is something like you choose to do for you, right? It's not like something you have to do for you, being done to you, right? Other people pushing you. This is something that you choose to do for you, to help you so that you can do the things that you want to do, right? Like, it is an investment in you, right? Not your mom, not your dad, not anyone else, but for you. And you will benefit, because when you invest in you, you benefit, right? And I feel like a lot of the times we become our own barriers because we're worried, like, I don't want to put more on my mom, or I don't want them to worry about me, and I don't, but they do anyway, right? So invest in yourself and do something that your parents are gonna like, they're gonna feel better. Like, look how much better Tammy feels, because she's like, I am just like, feel so much better for my son, right? So like, helping your parents, sometimes the best thing you can do is help yourself.
And I have every person that's on this screen and everyone who's listening, like, the ones who've ever heard me talk about iSocial and probably like, oh, Tammy, stop. I am so thankful for the program. I'm so thankful for the compassion that, Bob and Dr. Bruno have showed with Tristan. Definitely, Dr. Castro has been in our corner, for quite a while, and just being blessed that this led to meeting everyone that I've met here tonight. And I'm just really excited because I saw something happen beneficial for Tristan. And I didn't realize it as much now. I mean, I see it way more now than what I saw then. But when you see, we always say our boys are almost like cut from the same moms. Like, they all act the same. They all have the same little tendencies. They all end up, like, they got to all come from the same person. Once this program I saw go so well for Tristan, I just said, I got to put it out there and I got to share it. But I'm very, very thankful for everybody who's on here tonight and those who are out there listening. And if this program could be beneficial, I'll fight however I got to do to get it there, to help it just be an opportunity, and not even just and that's the one thing that I want to say, not just the Duchenne boys with the Duchenne boys. I love that this was so different. Tristan is interacting with people like he's going to go out in the real world. He's going to interact with people who don't just have Duchenne. He's going to interact with people who have other, neurodiverse issues, other, problems, and it's not just focused on Duchenne. And I think that was what was one of the biggest, I don't know, one of the biggest things for me, because I knew he was in there interacting, how he would really go out in the world. He's not going to roll out of his world just into the world of Duchenne. He's going out there with other people. And that's what I thought was so great about this program. I think that's what I want. I would love to grow this if it's something that could grow. And then we have, like, SMAs, we have the other muscular dystrophies, and just incorporate it into that world somehow, to where they are being exposed to other individuals who have other problems. Not I think, and I don't know if Tristan, it can kind of show you that it sucks, but it could suck over there too, and we can all work through this. I don't know. I just think it's been an amazing program. So thank you guys.
All right. Thank you. And Dr. Truba pointed out that you said something important. Change takes time. So anybody out there watching, DJ and I have been doing this almost 3 years, 2.5 somewhere. And, we get nervous too. I've spoken to audiences like 1,000 people, and I'll be real cool. But when it's time to start, I get a little nervous. So, everybody gets a little nervous. And with this program, everybody can learn how to overcome that. And we could go on and on with this, but, we do need to wrap up. And to anybody that has questions, as far as there were questions about price, about grants, again, I'll just scroll up. There's the email of Bob Etzel, and I will just say that is BETZEL at iSocialskills.com. So that's definitely the way to get personalized answers. So thank you, everybody that was here. And anybody, if you felt something when you heard about iSocial and the skills that are happening here, don't let it go. Jump on that and do something about it. And it sounds like you'll be grateful that you did. All right. Thank you. And DJ, do you want to send us home?
Thank you, Ryan. I guess it's time to wrap up this episode of the Duchenne Life. We would like to thank Tammy, Tristan, Dr. Truba, Dr. Castro, Bob, and Dr. Bruno for joining us tonight for a wonderful discussion on personal connection and its importance on our well-beings as individuals with Duchenne and the overall wellness as families. Thank you all again.
Thank you, guys. I'm so glad you guys care. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So,
wonderful meeting all of you. And hopefully we get together and visit again sometime.
And a special thank you to everyone joining us. Please join us next week for an all-new The Duchenne Life.